Welcome home, everyone. Lancescurv here. I want to speak about marriage today. And this came from a deep conversation I had over the phone with an old friend of mine. And he's never been married. And I've been married more than once. It wasn't a debate, but it was a deep, introspective conversation that I have to admit he was too shy to come on and do a live. So he brought up some good points, and I brought up some good points, and he made some very good points. And so when I got off the phone, I went downtown and made a few runs, and as I traveled, I jotted down some notes. And I pretty much, as always, wrote a full article about it, from the blending of points that he made. And I let him do his thing. I wasn't trying to challenge him, because I understand the other side, and I understand sometimes not the negativity, because this is not a negative presentation, but the apprehension these days with men to get married. So I'm going to blend in my notes and read off a few and make some statements and some thoughts, and let's see where we can go with this, because I really would like to hear everyone's opinion afterward. And even if after this goes up as a video, down to the years, down to the upcoming times where we can not debate on it, but give our thoughts and even express our pains, our joys, our victories. So this is not anything to go against. This is just me showing a little bit of what we talked about, and that's what it is. But marriage was once spoken of as the highest sign of maturity. It was painted as a doorway to stability, respect, and a life built on solid ground. Young men were told it would make them real men, able to lead families, shape futures, and find lasting peace. This vision was repeated so often that many accepted it without question. But for a growing number, that picture has begun to fade. Instead of feeling stronger, many men step into marriage and find themselves anxious, drained, and even broken after painful separation. The phrase, "till death do us part," no longer carries the weight it once did. The truth is that for many, the words ring hollow, replaced by quiet exits, fractured dreams, and numbers that paint a sobering reality. More than half of men under 35 now say they have no plans for marriage. That number has tripled since 1990. It is not because men want to avoid responsibility. It is not because they want to hide in their parents' homes, glued to screens and video games. Something deeper is at play. The very foundation of marriage, the contract, the institution, the promise, has changed in ways many no longer find worth the risk. This change is not small. It is not a minor adjustment in culture. It is a transformation of one of the oldest institutions in our community. At the heart of it lies a hard truth. Love remains powerful, but marriage itself has become a gamble where the stakes are far too high. And the consequences can strip away everything a man has worked for. For the Black community, this shift cuts even deeper. The weight of history, the scars of broken homes, and the trauma of separations echo loudly. To understand why so many are walking away, we must look closely at the forces pushing them out. Financial, emotional, spiritual, cultural, and generational. We have the financial trap. First and most obvious reasons, is money. Marriage is no longer seen as a simple partnership. It is a legal and financial contract that, if broken, can leave one side in ruins. The average contested divorce costs more than $15,000 in legal fees alone. That does not include splitting property, dividing assets, or paying child support. For a man who has spent years building a business or saving toward a dream, one decision by a court can wipe away decades of work. What once felt like a partnership now feels like a financial trap. Even prenuptial agreements meant to offer protection can be thrown out by judges who decide they are unfair. In practice, there is no guaranteed shield. When the financial system itself feels stacked against men, walking away from marriage stops looking like selfishness and starts looking like survival. It becomes a matter of risk management. Why gamble with everything when the odds lean so heavily toward loss? Beyond money lies another force: freedom. Many men still desire companionship, intimacy, and shared life. But marriage, as it is structured today, often places a heavy layer of joint decision-making on every choice, big and small. From where to live, to how holidays are spent, to daily routines and even leisure time, marriage introduces constant negotiation. For many, this slowly erodes the sense of self. Studies show that within just 18 months of marriage, men report a significant drop in their sense of independence. This loss of autonomy is not about selfishness. It is about the human need for agency, the ability to make choices without always needing approval or compromise. When freedom feels shackled, resentment grows. Many ask, why sign away independence for a coin toss between harmony and lifelong frustration? Respect is another cornerstone of a healthy relationship. Without it, love struggles to survive. Yet many men speak of marriages where intimacy fades and respect crumbles. Research shows sexual frequency drops sharply within the first years of marriage and often continues to decline. But the deeper wound is not physical, it is emotional. When men feel like providers and laborers whose voices and needs come last, the relationship begins to feel like a job without pay, without recognition, and without fulfillment. Respect and intimacy are not luxuries. They are the soil in which love grows. Without them, marriage becomes a burden. Walking away in such cases is not a rejection of love, but a demand for dignity. Many men carry memories not of happy marriages, but of painful separations. They grew up watching fathers leave with trash bags of clothes, shuttling between households, or witnessing tense courtroom battles. The trauma of divorce leaves lasting marks. Studies show children of divorced parents are twice as likely to avoid marriage themselves. For many, the memory of conflict, custody battles, and financial strain is enough to make them vow never to repeat the cycle. This is especially heavy in the Black community, where broken homes and absent fathers have already left deep scars. To many, marriage does not represent hope, it represents risk. Choosing to remain single becomes a way of breaking the cycle and protecting future children from the pain they once endured. It is important to say this: not every marriage fails. There are still couples who last 50 years, holding hands and inspiring others with their bond. Their love is beautiful and real, but these stories are increasingly the exception and not the rule. But I do have to say, I know many happy, successful, fulfilling marriages in the Black community, personal friends of mine. They know who they are, and I'm going to have some of them come on and share their journey and their secrets to a good marriage. But I'm speaking on the overall atmosphere of how people feel these days. And good marriages, yes, they're there, but the mindset of today's generation is definitely leaning against marriage. Statistics tell us the opposite story of separations, struggles, and risks that outweigh the rewards. The dream of lifelong unity remains alive, but the system built around it does not reflect fairness or stability. Until marriage itself evolves to protect both sides equally, the risk will continue to drive men away. Another force shaping this crisis is the illusion of the perfect partner. Movies, media, and dating apps all feed the idea of endless choice. A soulmate may feel just one swipe away. Standards become inflated, and the imperfect but real partner before you begins to feel like a compromise. This endless search creates exhaustion. Many feel trapped in an audition for a role that may not even exist. In such a climate, the thought of making a lifelong vow feels overwhelming and even reckless. Marriage often carries an invisible weight, the mental load. This is the constant planning, organizing, and remembering that keeps a household running. Men may share in physical chores, but the expectation of anticipating needs, from meals to appointments to family plans, becomes another source of strain. Over time, this imbalance leaves men feeling managed rather than partnered. What begins as teamwork turns into silent pressure, with failures magnified and efforts overlooked. For some, the easiest way to escape this imbalance is never to enter it. Modern single life is not what it was in past generations. Today, technology, social clubs, delivery services, and endless options for connection mean one can live comfortably without marriage. Studies show single men often have more financial freedom, lowered stress, and a great control over their health and time. The benefits once tied to marriage, meals, companionship, social respect, are now available without legal or emotional risk. For many, the trade-off is simple. Freedom and stability outweigh the promise of marriage. Family law remains stuck in the past. Systems built decades ago still assume traditional gender roles, often placing men at a disadvantage. From alimony to custody to property division, the scales are rarely balanced. Even allegations without proof can remove a man from his home, stripping away security and reputation. In such an environment, entering marriage feels like stepping into a system already stacked against you. Until laws reflect fairness, the institution will remain fragile. Marriage also reshapes identity. A man who has worked to build independence, passions, and purpose may feel those things swallowed in the role of husband. The merging of two lives, while beautiful in theory, can sometimes mean the erasure of self. Protecting one's identity is not selfish, it is survival. For many, avoiding marriage is less about fear of commitment and more about refusing to lose the self they have fought so hard to build. Love remains powerful. The desire for connection, partnership, and family has not died, What has changed is the trust in marriage as the pathway to those things. For many men in the Black family, the risk of marriage, financial, emotional, legal, generational, outweigh the rewards. Choosing not to marry is not a rejection of love. It is an act of self-preservation in a system that feels one-sided and outdated. This does not mean lasting love is impossible. It means the institution itself must change. It must offer fairness, respect, and protection to both sides if it hopes to regain trust. Until then, more will walk away, not from love, but from a contract that no longer serves their survival. To those who remain in strong marriages, honor them, nurture them, and let them be examples of balance and respect. To those still deciding, weigh the risks, know your worth, and choose with open eyes. And to those who walk away, understand survival is not weakness, it is wisdom. The Black community has endured too much loss to blindly step into traps disguised as traditions. The future demands new models of love, unity, and respect. Only then can partnership truly thrive again. Yes, so it wasn't about being against marriage, but what my friend brought up was some valid points. And really and truly, when you look at the court system and how they divide up assets and how they demonize men, I can understand why many men are apprehensive to enter into marriage. Then now, we have to really understand that we better get to know who it is that we're dealing with, because everything is always hunky-dory in the beginning, and then the fangs come out. Now, I'm not demonizing women, just because these same reasons for not wanting to get married, women can utilize also. So this isn't a man versus woman thing, because men can oftentimes show their fangs. Look at what we have to deal with on the woman's side. All of the above of what I spoke on. But these days, more and more when I speak to young ladies, one of the biggest questions that they have when they meet a man is, have you ever slept with a man? Do you like men? Who wants to find that out after you're married, that you're being used as a cover-up and a beard, right? There are men who lie about their financial status in the beginning. In the beginning, you should be upfront with everything. If you owe child support for 18 babies and you haven't paid it yet, you need to be honest, right? Different things about your credit. If you're looking to build a future together, even if you don't marry, but you want to form a partnership legally between the both of you, you still need to be honest. You have to be honest across the board with so many things. Now, we know we have to be sexually compatible. That's the human element. Don't try to freak the person off or act like you're into all different things that they're into, but really it turns your stomach. Be honest about it. Be honest from the very beginning. And that's what I find to be one of the biggest things that stop two people from lasting together over not only years, but decades. Honesty. That's all it takes. Now, when we get together with somebody, we have to probe a bit and not feel guilty about that, because you might be falling in love not only with their representative, but if it's not the representative and the real person, you may have an illusion of this person. You may see an image that they're not even trying to project. So don't blame them when that image, like a bubble, will burst. And there's so many things. Just like I said earlier, we have the dating apps and we have all of these different ways of meeting people more than ever before. When you really think back at it, I've seen families in different places in America, but let's just pick on the South, in America, in places like the Caribbean, and we're talking years ago. We're not just talking about now. We're talking about years ago, right? Most people married people in their community because they didn't have the apps. The people weren't traveling so far. It wasn't such a turnover. Usually you might have a sister marry a man from a family, and one of her other sisters end up marrying another brother from that same family. I've seen it. It's not incestuous. It's just that that's the way it was. Now you can meet somebody and bring them to your family and say you plan on getting married, and they live like 5 states over. You know what I mean? They can be from a different country now. Not that it couldn't happen before, but there's so much of a turnover. And with technology, with the computer and the internet, the possibilities have opened up even more. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to hold this person to a certain standard, and they're going to have to hold you to a certain standard. You're going to have to be honest, and you can't lie. You know, a lot of men have been burnt out here. A lot of women have been burnt out here. But it's funny because more men, from what I could see, they're taking their time. And that's what we need to do, is take our time a little more. Don't take too much time now, but take your time and get to know and make sure that you both are real. I just want to touch on this point, and I want to hear your comments, and we'll spin off other shows from this one, because there's going to be a lot of points brought up that we're going to need to address. Anyway, thank you for being here. I'm on to the next one. Much love to you all. LanceScurv out. Peace.